Do you check your email every day? You probably think you do. And mostly you do, except the week that you're on vacation or underwater on your own launch, or if you've been there, the months that you take off for parental leave. There are real windows where you're just not there. So what happens when a company that you love ships the exact thing that you've been waiting for right into one of those windows? You don't ignore it, you miss it. And when you finally catch it, your reaction isn't to shrug. It's, wait, how long has this been here? I've wanted this since the day it shipped. That's not a customer who needs to be sold. That's a customer whose window didn't line up with yours. You've probably heard that a launch should never be a moment. It's something you have to keep doing and keep placing until your user finally trips over it. Today's episode is the cleanest example I have got for this because it happened to me.
First of all, I noticed it in-app. I was not going into in-app for a while. I had my forms running and I just didn't go into it. And then I started noticing some emails from you guys, which also I was having an assistant run through my emails. So I wasn't really catching my emails.
And that, me, a power user, missing an entire product for 4 months is exactly the kind of thing that this show is built to catch. Because here's what we do on this show. Every episode, I hand my guests a piece of real customer feedback, a 3-star review, a Reddit rant, a puzzling survey response. Together, we build an experiment based on what the feedback is actually telling us. Did you catch that? Actually telling us, not just the surface ask, the shift underneath it. Because the SaaS playbook has trained us to read feedback one way, as a feature request, a line for the product backlog, something to build, or politely decline. But it misses what feedback is often really doing, waving a flag that something has changed for your user, and they've started reevaluating how you fit into their life. I call these moments change flags, and there are 9 of them that matter. Some of them happen when you make changes in your product. Some happen when things shift in your user's life or in the market at large. We'll tackle a different flag every episode. And here's the really exciting part. If you catch one of these change flags too late, the user just slips away. No complaint, no warning, gone. No, obviously that's not the cool part. We hate when that happens. Here's the cool part. If you catch a flag in real time, that same moment flips into expansion. The user goes deeper, they upgrade, they add seats or usage that they didn't even know they needed. Same flag, 2 outcomes. And this show exists to help you see churn as just another change that you can catch to turn your riskiest users into your champions. I'm Nikki Elbaz, bringing 15 years of SaaS marketing to these conversations. Welcome to Churn Flags. We are looking at a review for Paperform with co-founder Diony McPherson. Full disclosure, Paperform is a product that I have been a little obsessed with for quite a few years. I am not a neutral party here. I've recommended it to basically everyone I work with because I love both the actual product and the team behind it. The people behind Paperform are so breathtakingly intentional. They really, truly, and I really mean really, truly, care. And I know that sounds like fluff that everyone says, but listen to Diony for just 1 second. And you will see what I mean. Diony is offering 50% off Paperform Pro and Stepper Pro until the end of June. Check out the details in the show notes. So I came in pretty sure I knew which flag we were looking at. Diony took about 2 minutes to throw my entire thesis out the window. Gently, of course. But then she mentioned the thing that turned out to be the real story. Let's read the review, given to us by Sharik, who's an executive director at a small business.
Yes, Sharik. How can we help you, Sharik? What do you dislike about Paperform? I wish I could use it as a full-fledged survey solution with built-in analytics such as Qualtrics. However, if that were the case, then it would lose its identity and it would be way outside of our budget. And then what's cool is that Dean responded and he said, okay, actually, we recently released our AI Insights tool, so check it out. Obviously, it's not the same thing. It's not Qualtrics, but it is something that can give him that outcome.
So, like I said, when I first read Sharik's review, I was pretty sure I knew what I was looking at. I thought this was a mastery flag. Mastery flags pop up when a user has hit a level of sophistication with your product, when they're ready for more than for what they originally came in for, when they've outgrown their initial use case. This is a classic expansion flag. Show them the next step, and they'll increase usage immediately. And that's exactly what I thought Sharik was telling us. He loves Paperform. He's really advanced, and now he wants Qualtrics level analytics. Classic mastery, right? He's ready to start using his data. Paperform should show him AI analytics. Done. So I brought that to Diony, and she brought in a whole nother angle.
I don't think it's mastery because I think if the functionality, this is my assumption, my intuition, is if I sat down and talked to Sharik that he actually knows Paperform's product really well, and he might have even already found the AI insights, and he might want even more than that, which is what Qualtrics are doing, which is really complicated analysis of data. And that's why he recognizes that that's not what Paperform does. But he's like, man, imagine if it did. And so we as founders have to reflect on that and say, is what he's saying something that customers will just expect from form builders and we should consider it? Do we see it having integrity with the strategic direction that we have at the moment? Or is that going to push us into a niche and a category that we actually don't want to live in, at least right now?
So wait, it's not a mastery flag? Did I just open my brand new podcast with a mistake? Deep breath, Nikki. You got this. Stay in curiosity here. Joke aside, this is actually something I see in my engagements all the time. Companies bring me in because I bring in a level of expertise on lifecycle marketing, but the team inside has an equally important level of expertise in their own product and user base. Often, they have the insights and angles that can only come from deep inside experience. I can help them tease them out. I can bring in fresh angles. Sometimes I need to let go of my assumptions and listen. And when I do that, that's when the real magic happens. Diony has seen this flag play out over and over again. You'll hear more on this soon, but this is an insight that she brings experience. I can't just ignore it, even though I'm a little panicky that we just killed our episode. Spoiler, we didn't kill the episode. I just had to stop and listen to what Diony said next. But first, let's rewind to her initial reaction to the review.
I'm not saying this just because I'm biased, but I find the first part of that review really interesting too, in that the dislike is actually directly connected to what they love. They love that Paperform's easy and intuitive, that it helps them to collect data, but also integrate via Zapier and get their data where it needs to go. And then as an extension of that, the thing that is missing for them is that they get to do something with that data that has meaning. How do I make meaning of it? And that's what, something like Qualtrics will take all of the data that you have and analyze it and give you not just metrics on it, but insights into it. And then at the same time, they recognize as they're writing this down. I love this actually. I do get defensive because I love Paperform. And I'll be like, oh, no, we could do that. Or, oh, no, you just missed this thing. Or, no, it's not supposed to be that. But this one, I don't feel that way because I totally get it. They're going through the process themselves of saying it would be great if you could be a fully fledged survey solution where you have the data and then do something very meaningful with it, with the analytics such as Qualtrics. But if that's the case, then Paperform could lose its identity, like goes on this philosophical identity crisis for us, which is great. And it would be way outside our budget. So the assumption that he is there is that it's going to be really expensive. So there's some kind of understanding. Tariq clearly understands what it means to build a product, to manage a product, and also to run a product as a business and what that means about passing costs on to your customers. So I love this response. And if from day one, what we've grappled with, and I think probably everyone in product grapples with, is drawing a line and being clear about what it is that you're offering and sticking to that vision and that brand identity as well, but product vision, and making that a very clear offering to your customers and not getting too sidetracked by the million and one things that you could become. So when I first see this, my initial response is, oh, how wonderful that he recognizes that it's not a matter of saying, oh, yes, we could add that or we couldn't. It's not about feasibility necessarily. It's about asking whether or not it makes sense for the product and the solution that you're offering. And then my brain immediately goes to, however, in 2026, with where dev is heading with AI and with who we are is very robust as a product. We're not just surveys, we're not just one question at a time. We're payments, we edge into e-commerce, we edge into a lot of different spaces. And so offering really good analytics, which we've already done work on actually in the last year, but if we kept doing more, it maybe wouldn't be too far outside of the identity that we have built for ourselves and where people are expecting us to go with what's available with AI.
So now I'm listening differently. And here's what jumps out. Diony keeps saying that Paperforms is way more than forms. Payments, e-commerce, scheduling, all these directions they've already grown into. They are constantly deciding which do-mores are worth it and which ones would blow up the identity that they have carefully built. Deep analytics, the thing that Shariq is asking for, they are mostly choosing to pass on, although Diony is exploring the possibility. So now I'm curious, of all the directions that they can expand into, which do they actually say yes to? What do they build out and expand on? And that question is the thing that cracked open this whole episode, because Diony told me something that took me totally by surprise.
For Stepper, which is our new product, which is workflows, but works very closely with Paperform because it adds all of the integrations that you need to be able to do stuff with your data with Paperform, with any number of apps, but create these full end-to-end workflows, which is, you create one product like a form builder like Paperform, and then all of a sudden you realize that there's a way bigger flow there from your customers that people need. And so it was natural for us to then move into a workflow product. But we launched Stepper at a really awkward time, which was at the end of last year, and Christmas and then events of early this year have stunted us a little bit in that energy. And so we're getting back to it.
Just saw it last week, 2 weeks ago. I thought that you just launched it.
In some ways, it kind of feels like that we have as well. It feels like yesterday. Yeah, it really is very, very fresh. And we've got a great response so far, and we're seeing a user base grow very healthily, which is really, really exciting. And what I haven't gotten a great gauge on yet, that's next on my agenda, is talking to Stepper and Paperform users and making sure that there's a really good exposure of Stepper to Paperform customers, which hasn't, you've just found out about Stepper now, hasn't been as obvious.
Yeah, this amazing feature launch that I missed until now, which is not so crazy. First of all, I noticed it in app. I was not going into in-app for a while, and I had my forms running and I just didn't go into it. And then I started noticing some emails from you guys, which also I was having an assistant run through my emails, and so I wasn't really catching some of my emails. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't do your part.
Did you catch that? That's a real product flag that Paperform is actively working to take down. Product flags are exactly this. You launch or acquire a new product, and then you are so busy launching it, usually to the general public, that you don't take it all the way to the end and ensure that existing customers are actually seeing it and adopting it. Let's see how Paperform tackled their launch.
What was the launch assets when you launched Stepper?
So we like to obviously go to a very common protocol for a lot of people is Product Hunt. So going on Product Hunt for that moment, our email newsletter for Paperform in particular was very important because we built Stepper largely because this comes back to what Sharik is saying, expanding your product. Where are the limits of your product, and how clear are you about the roadmap that you have that keeps the integrity of the product? We could see ways to expand on Paperform that really should be distinct products that work really nicely together, that, we're moving from being SaaS to PaaS, platform as a service, and workflows were a really obvious step for us. And so being able to expose Stepper to our Paperform audience is a no-brainer, because it's why we built Stepper, is because we heard our Paperform customers asking for it. Papersign, our other product as well, we had people hacking Paperform to be able to create contract workflows. And we were like, no, we should be, there are so many people doing this. We should produce an e-signature solution that works really nicely with Paperform. And so we have that now. And so when we launched Stepper, we hit Product Hunt, we went on socials, and then, Stepper being a separate product, we had to make sure that it was able to stand up on its own as well to new audiences. So we prepared, a lot of SEO, we rely quite heavily for growth on champions, word of mouth, people genuinely loving the product and telling people about it. And the other half of what we do is content, SEO, and obviously now AI search, geo, whatever people are calling it at the moment, is really, really important, but very tied to SEO still. And so we did a lot of prep for content and making sure that we could be found in search results for the general public. And then we had in-product banners for Paperform that said, hey, you were building workflow on Paperform, check out Stepper. And then we pointed to Stepper because it lives in the same dashboard.
The way I discovered it when I went into the integrations tab to connect the form to my that was the most genius way, because it's literally where it lives. Yes, obviously, use cases that I am now using it for other workflows. When you're talking to your existing customers, the way that you wanted it to be, that your Paperform customers are using it, that's the most natural way that it should show up.
Okay, so sit with what just happened here. They built Stepper specifically for their existing Perform customers. In Diony's words, putting it in front of us was a no-brainer. So in addition to the public-facing strategies like Product Hunt or social SEO, they put it in front of customers. Email comms, in-app, pop-ups, right in the integrations tab, right where a user would naturally reach for another tool. So why didn't I see it? Simple. I was busy, like 99.9% of your customers, which is why it needs to go everywhere, and not just go everywhere once, but again and again. Why did I eventually find it 4 months later? Because they kept sending me signals.
Yeah, so our view of a launch as well, quite frankly, is if we launch and it flops, which happens to a lot of people, you can always just relaunch. I want to say that to anyone listening who's thinking about launching a product or has already and is like, oh, we launched and it just didn't get that much attention. Just launch again, just relaunch.
It's not even launch again. Keep launching until everyone gets that at least 25% adoption rate.
Yeah, make a moment.
Okay, so we're dealing with a product flag? Actually, listening to Diony, I think we're tackling something bigger. I think we need to move up a level to the third platform flag, perception.
So I'm actually thinking that this is a perception flag where people come to you and think that you are a form builder because it's called Paperform and it starts primarily as a form builder. But you're so much more. And I've experienced this myself as well, actually. I signed up years ago for the form builder. And then I believe it was when you launched payments. And I was like, wow, I can sell my products on here. Why do I even need Thrivecart anymore? I ended up keeping Thrivecart for other things, but it hosted a bunch of my products for a long time where it really had that capability. And when you had the referral program, that was always my little pitch was, this is not a form builder. This is so much more. You can do so much more with it. It can be just like a landing page where you're like, instead of building a whole landing page on Unbounce, you are just putting the details here and there's a little form submission for your lead magnet. And then boom, you have a landing page and it's so easy and so quick and beautiful. So I've always seen this, but it's interesting. I wonder if the people coming in now are seeing this shift. And also I'm curious how you've given me that shift over time, because that's pretty rare that someone coming in as a form builder sees that you are making all these shifts. So something's going right here.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it. You launch a product that's really powerful. So Paperform's really robust. And we launched it at a time when forms were either really robust and ugly, or they were beautiful, like type form, but very simple, conversational, one survey, one question at a time. And there was nothing that met the need of both of these things, which is why we built Paperform. When you build a tool that is intentionally not niche and is really robust in a space, then you have to expect that you're going to invite these conversations where people say, oh, that's great, it's phenomenal, does all this stuff. But it would be great if it could also then extend into that full niche. And we see it with e-commerce. We support incredibly robust payments, really different use cases. People use us to create an alternative to Uber Eats, online food ordering for stores,
Wow.
shops, listings for real estate, client service forms for, cleaners who are booking clients where they need to stipulate exactly what kind of clean that they'll need for like a commercial building. And then they'll, in real time on Paperform, they'll be able to calculate based on hours and room sizes and all these complex things. They'll use our calculations to determine a live quote and book them in, because we have booking systems included as well. And so you have to decide whether, how much are we going to compete with. We don't see ourselves as a direct competitor, or we didn't to Calendly. But to be honest with you, we're very much on par with them in being a competitor, but we're known as a form builder. We don't see ourselves as a competitor to Uber Eats for sure, but people are still using Paperform to create an alternative solution to them. And so you have to expect that when you make a really robust product, that people will want it to do more. And the default assumption with forms are that they're just going to be a survey or a contact form on a website. But forms use cases there are as many different kinds of forms as there are stars in the sky. And so for us, very quickly in the first year, we realized that it was good that we didn't start out with a niche product, because it fulfilled the needs of all these different use cases. So that's hard when you start out like that, because it becomes difficult to sift through, Sharik's point of, at what point do you draw the line and say this shouldn't be a feature of what we're offering, the solution that we're offering. And then the extension of that for us is, how do you then market that? How do you market all the different niches and use cases really well as a small bootstrapped company? You have to think really carefully about that. It doesn't mean that people don't go on creating these use cases, but then whatever you highlight as a case study, what if that becomes what you're known for? All of a sudden you're the real estate listings form builder. That's great, but we do loads more.
Yeah. Let's dig into that right now. Let's do that right now. So there are three things that I'm thinking of right now. One is big move, and then one is a small move, and then one is like kind of like a middle, could work, could not. And you pick one. Okay. So number one, changing the name. So instead of Paperform, you are now Paperflow. Okay. That's one experiment that we can run through. See, the one that's like very small, little, is you already have templates in the library showing all the different like use cases. What if it's a very specific, I don't remember exactly how the templates are, because I just like made my own template and I keep using that one. I have my use case and I'm set on that. But what if you created some sort of sorting to the templates so that it's like use cases, and then maybe
also we have that actually, because we've got over 30,000 templates.
What?
If you didn't you didn't sort them, then you'd be in trouble.
So maybe it's actually the communication around the templates so that you are creating some sort of flow, either in app or in email or both, saying like, hey, we have 30,000 templates. Here's all these use cases. How many of them are you using? That's like the lower end, low risk. And then the middle ground, pretty safe both ways, is creating some sort of email campaign where every week you send out a case study, use case sort of thing. And it's a series, so it feels safer that you're not going to be known for a specific use case. It's interesting because people like reading about people. So you would be interviewing like a certain customer, their use case, how they use it, and turning that into like a piece of content. And then it would be the series that would be informative and also almost kind of build that community as well, because people would be connecting to the other Paperform members. Which experiment do you want to go with?
Are these experiments to directly address the issue of perception?
That we want to show existing customers that Paperform is so much bigger than forms. So one of these things will show that to them.
I think the last one is definitely, for me, it's a standout compared to the other two. The
Mhm.
reason being is we're literally today releasing a new onboarding flow. So we've had AI form creation for a while, but we now have AI form creation, create from scratch, which is still, a lot of people like to just have a blank slate and do it themselves,
Mhm.
despite what's possible. We have build by template, and we now have over 30,000 templates. And we now support the ability to upload an image or a PDF and say, using AI, just transform that into a form in
Wow.
seconds. And so what we do as part of that is when someone look at what you're after, and then we automatically offer you existing templates and resources. So that smaller one that you mentioned, which is, the template filter, we've actually done that as of today, which is really exciting. The first one, the big one that you mentioned, I would not do. And the reason is when you rebrand, if you rebrand to something, I'm assuming that you're suggesting something that is very neutral, like doesn't mean anything as a brand name to say this is the thing that we are, that is the Swiss Army knife. So we started using the term Swiss Army knife before it was cool, and then everyone started using it. I think everyone feels like that. But we started using Swiss Army knife and it meant nothing to people. People were like, okay, that's great, Swiss Army knife, but what does that mean for my specific solution? What we've found is that people are looking for forms. It's just what people think is a form is specific to them. So, for example, you might be going, "Oh, I need a form." Of course, it's a client onboarding form, or it's. I haven't filled out yours. It's the prep form for the podcast. Which I'm sorry, I'll do it. That's your idea of a form. For someone else, the idea of a form is it's a client intake form for a hospital. And all of their perception of forms is dictated by their industry, or it's a financial assessment, or it's a new account opening for a bank, or it's a register for my soccer club. There are all these different kinds of forms, not just, oh, I'm going to edge into e-commerce and create a store and all those sorts of things. So what we find is the predominant use is a variation of forms, but forms are expansive. So we've done so much work to build a presence online with SEO and now with AI search based off of Paperform. So if you're going to change your name after 10 years of that standing, you better make sure it's for a good reason. The risk of tanking all of your SEO, of tanking AI search, of being confused and not being clear about what you are is huge. And so you've got to weigh it up. Even if there's a downside where some people expect more from you than what you give, if that is the 5%, and the vast majority don't have that issue, it's way better to just have that and work with those people. I like what Sharik is saying because those kinds of conversations, it make me think maybe that is where we should be heading. We should think about that. Maybe the answer is no, but he could be right. Maybe the expectation for form builders in general is that our analytics will be as good as Qualtrics or better because that's just the standard that will come into play in the next few years because of what the tech can now do.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking from the customer perspective. Like, I remember when you rebranded visually, and I was like, "No, don't do that." But it's
Sometimes Dina and
beautiful.
I are like, I miss our P, our folded P. I want to go back.
I remember thinking, "This is beautiful rebranding," and I appreciate why they did it, and it came through very nicely. But there was also this nostalgic, "No, don't change anything." It's definitely a big step to change your name. It's gone a really good reason. Like going to the one of this new template AI flow.
Just a new onboarding flow at the moment, but it's an AI forward approach. It's not AI only, but AI forward.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it. So if you would present it to your existing customers, would you also do some UI changes, or are you doing some UI changes anyway for the new customers that the AI form creation or the PDF creation or all these new form creation options, are they front and center? And when an existing customer logs into their dashboard from today, what are they going to see? Is it going to be different where it's just their forms and they just go in and create them the way they used to create them? Or are we now going to see something different where it's like, oh, wow, I can actually change the way I've been doing this for the better?
For existing customers, it's not going to look extraordinarily different because once you're in, the options are to create from scratch. We can change things all the time. So even the template experience has actually completely changed. Probably definitely from when you've seen it, but in the last couple of weeks. And now if you do go and create using AI as an existing user, the change that you'll see is you're able to upload a PDF and an image, which you haven't been able to do before. And then we found it was fragmented. It was like people were saying, create from scratch, create form, create using AI or select a template. You're right. We do want for everyone to just say, hey, I just want to make a form. And you open it up and your experience is just, all right, I'm going to make a form and I'm going to decide now if it's going to be with AI or from scratch or whatever, but I'm not going to select these different paths immediately. It's all really just the same thing using different methods. But we don't find that too difficult to implement because we make product decisions really quickly and then just go and tweak them. But yeah, we should make it available to you guys really, really well, existing customers, and shout it from the rooftops. That's when I definitely go in, do a newsletter, update our in-product banner is really important, and then email comms and socials, really important for communication.
I think it would be cool to see the onboarding flow as well. Like, hey, you have this new way of doing things. Are you interested in seeing it? That would be like, an optional re-onboarding experience because it's a new way of creating the forms.
Yeah. Yep. That's a really good point. That would be fun.
Yeah. I mean, like, obviously I love onboarding, but I think it could be really helpful to see all these new things that you just keep launching and keep creating for that are so customer focused. They're going to want to see it.
You're right. It is really difficult to stay in really great communication with existing customers and get them across everything if they're not opening. But in terms of the, hey guys, all this has changed, that's one of the most challenging things. And I found that by doing a blog post, a video, which I haven't done in a while, that recaps the quarter and being able to consolidate all of the new feature and the important company stuff that's happened as well, and being able to package that up really well and send it to users and hope that they open their emails for that particular email and see the pop up in the product. That's one of the best things that you can do and get it across socials. But consolidating the information for your customers is really important.
So here's where we stand with the experiments. The big thing got a hard no. The tiny tweak actually launched that same day. The safe bet got a why not? What we really landed on was keeping your existing customers in the loop. If you're launching a new onboarding, they should see it too, especially if things have changed drastically. At the very least, send a roundup update mail. But the more channels you hit, the better. See, perception is the static problem. Your customer's picture of you is frozen, so they're not out looking for the new thing you've built. They are not going to come find it. So placement is the fix. If they're not coming to look, you put the new thing right in the path of something they already do. And you do it more than once, because any single launch only catches whoever happens to be around that week. 2 layers, 1 flag. Perception is why a broadcast slides past your existing users, and placement is how you reach them. And that is exactly how I finally picked up Stepper. I didn't see the launch email. I didn't see the pop-up. I definitely didn't see it on Product Hunt or socials. I found it because on an ordinary day, I went into my integrations tab to connect a form to my email platform. Stepper was there, sitting in the exact place it belonged, at the exact moment I had the need that it could solve. That's how Stepper roped me in. Not by luck, but because someone placed it where my work already lives and didn't give up the first time. I'll give you a little bonus clip because it's actually the whole reason this show exists. The brands that I work with are years past the scrappy startup stage, and huge pet peeve of mine, they are still given startup advice, even though they have moved way past it. Here is an awesome vignette from Paperform's early days and how they've adapted as they've grown up.
So it was Dean and I for the first couple of years, and I did support. I joke that it was our first baby because we're Aussie. And from the get-go, 50% of our audience was American and then 30% European. So we were setting an alarm every 2 or 3 hours at night and getting up and having, because we wanted live chat. We needed to be able to talk to people in real time. That's not sustainable. No, I'm not advocating for that for anyone to do for any prolonged period of time. We chose to do it for a time, and then we And then we found a better way to scale it, but we continued to have personally very close relationships with customers.
Wow.
And even now, I still have a very direct relationship with a lot of customers. But then we hired a team, and then we had to think about how do we educate them, not just on answering the ticket, how do we get them to really be customer success in a way that champions everything that we've found works for a good relationship with customers. And then sometimes it's going really well, and then without realizing it, you're not passing on some tribal knowledge or something that's important, and then you feel a disconnect from your users, and you maybe make some decisions that aren't as connected, and then you go back and look at how can you strategically rein that back in and get close to them again. But I think for any business as it grows through different stages with all of the operations, but especially with staying close to customers like Sharik and you, Nikki, it's about making sure that we're figuring out how to do that well at each stage of growth. And the minute you start to lose a bit of that connection, which has happened to, I think, every business as they grow over time, you learn how to then reconnect with your customers and stay close to them at different stages of growth.
And there's the answer. The instinct, stay close to your customers, never stops being right. What changes is the shape that it takes. The 2:00 in the morning alarm becomes a team, a webinar, a system, something you keep rebuilding at every stage. That's what the 9 change flags are. 9 places where connection quietly breaks, and a way to catch each one before it costs you a customer. I built them out into a rubric so you can quickly diagnose the flags that you are facing. Grab it at nikkielbaz.com/rubric or check out the link in the show notes.